Hello and welcome into a post-game edition of Guerilla Hockey with JJ and Jesse. I'm
Special
JJ.
edition.
Special edition. Coming to you from Las Vegas, Nevada.
Yeah, sorry, I interrupted your introduction.
It's all right. We didn't even get 10 seconds into it.
I'm sorry.
It's all right. But here we are. Come to discuss a little bit of the post-game from yesterday. Tough loss for the Avalanche. And, walking into that room was definitely one of those situations where you can feel it in the air. You can cut the disappointment with a knife. Tough to see guys like Kale kind of be so, I don't know, answerless.
Yeah.
I guess is kind of what I observed from the group. But yeah, Jesse, how you doing today?
I'm good. I feel bad. You were halfway through. I'm JJ. He's Jesse, and I cut you off, which is so funny because we really struggled with that yesterday, figuring out who we were after the game.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I kept calling myself Jesse somehow.
Yeah, we had to do a couple different takes of
Las Vegas does wild things to your brain.
Our post-game show because we got all the way through it, and then he ended it with, but yeah, so for JJ, I'm Jesse. See you later. And then we started over, and he goes, all right, sorry. What's going on, guys? Jesse Montano. And so we had to start over again, and it was hilarious. But no, dude, I'm doing great. Like we had a great time yesterday after the game. We got a couple of us out here. We're having fun, and it's a fun atmosphere around T-Mobile Arena. Was that your first time there?
That was my first time there, and what a great experience it was. In all honesty, I think the NHL kind of needs to mimic what they're doing here in Vegas as far as the fan experience and how fun it was inside the building. So I loved that.
Yeah, and like you said, obviously it was a crazy game yesterday, but like it's fun to go to that environment. It was a really good hockey game for 40 minutes of, as far as like competitiveness.
Well, and I think, when we first walked into the building, warm-ups were still going on, of course, and I walked down into the little VOM there to get, a little Instagram of the warm-up, and it reminded me a lot of Nashville, where you could just feel the other team's presence, right? Like it's just filled with gold or whatever you want to, mustardy color. And I think as a player, there's extra hype, right? It gives you extra energy, even if you're the opponent. It's like, okay, this is going to be fun. I love this environment. And you saw it translate. The Avalanche came out of the gate really strong. Cale Makar even called it maybe the best start to a game they've had all year.
You got the Vegas showgirls down on the glass and all that stuff. Like you said, you can just really feel the energy. And so I'm doing great. It's almost 80 degrees out today, so we're going to get done with this and head back out. But like you said, it all of that felt like it was translating a bit to a really good start. You and I were sitting there going, wow, what a bounce back from these guys. It was obvious they showed up ready to go. They took this seriously, and they looked great. They're snapping the puck around. They're scoring goals. They're getting it on the forecheck. Vegas looked like they were struggling with the speed at times. I'm with you. It seemed like they were they were picking up all the same energy we're talking about.
Yeah, and I know turning the page has been a big emphasis for these guys this year. But, again, going back to how that energy was when I walked into that locker room, I feel like I freshly got in there right after Jared Bednar got out, right? Because all the guys were still there, and you could just really feel it in the room. But you can't tell me that hockey players don't care, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a wrap on professional athletes. Like, oh, well, they're getting paid anyway. They easily move on from this. Not NHLers.
Yeah.
They genuinely, passionately want to win every single game. I think right now they know they need to be playing much better hockey heading into the playoffs, and it's just not coming, and it's disappointing the hell out of them.
Yeah, and they seem... Yeah, I was going to say they seem mad, but really, the last night it did not seem like they were mad. They seemed very disappointed, very frustrated. And I thought what Cale said was interesting about the results don't matter. We're worried about the process. And I thought that was not I don't necessarily say like that's a really mature way to look at it, but like that's them saying, hey, look, all right, we had an opportunity and we let it slip away. We're not going to chase that back. We're not going to, go crazy trying to win these last couple games. We want to make sure that we are playing the right way and that our details are sharp. You were talking yesterday about Arturi Lehkonen and just like the details in his game for so much of that game yesterday were just on point. And to me, I look at him and like that's a microcosm of what they should be caring about here. Are you doing the right things? Is the effort there? Is the compete level there? And are you just checking all those little boxes that you need to be checking? And if you win games, fine. If you lose, who cares? Up until the playoffs start, obviously. If you lose, who cares? And that to me, what had to have been so frustrating about that game yesterday was for 40 minutes, really, even that second period, I told you, Vegas controlled the puck a lot. The shots were 11-10. Like the Avs played a fine game in that, even in that second period. And then just see it all go away. Like it feels a little too mentally fragile right now.
Yeah, and I think one thing you saw out of that second period, the first period was fantastic. The second period started to kind of be, a little back and forth. I would say it was almost a split between, who controlled the game more. But what you had in that second period that you didn't have in the third period were big saves out of Alexander Georgiev, right? Yep. He was looking really sharp at first. I mean, he looked super focused from the get-go, had some really big saves in the first two periods.
Yep.
And you just weren't able to put that together for three periods. And it was that full 60 minutes, 60 plus, because it went into overtime that I guess just kind of bit them in the ass again, is just not the ability to put together that full game.
Are we on to Georgiev?
Yeah.
Do you need to answer that?
No.
Because I don't want to jump the gun on that if we have other stuff to unpack. But like what you just said, there were two plays last night where he made big saves, both near the end of that second period. Where it was like, wow, those are significant to keep the Avs up by 3.
Mm-hmm.
Good for him. He's feeling it. What has me, and I told you this last night, for the first time all season long, I'm worried about what is happening in net for the Avs, and it's because he played great. It was a bounce-back performance. He was fantastic. The Avs were playing really well in front of him. Alexander Georgiev gave up 1 goal, and he just folded. And that, to me, is a sign of a goaltender that is not mentally sharp, that is expecting pucks to beat him.
Yeah, exactly. It's a confidence thing right now. Not that he's not capable of it, because we've seen stretches of this season where he's been phenomenal.
Yep.
And it's tough to fix confidence, right?
Yep.
All it takes is maybe a good game against a weaker team, but you're out of those. You're out of time. You need to find a way to fix that confidence during these next couple days of rest, during that last game against Edmonton. I mean, it's going to have to be a quick surgery.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, a huge challenge.
And we're at the point where it's Alexander Georgiev who has to get him out of it. Mm-hmm. Like you said, you're out of the weak teams, and that to me again is the part that's I'll use the word concerning about yesterday. That game yesterday was building towards a great bounce back performance.
Mm-hmm.
You were getting good play in front of you. You were getting goal support. You were playing well, and the fact that it just all seemed to cave in on him so quickly. It's like, okay, well, what is going to get your confidence back? Because I'm going to say it right into the camera. It's Georgiev going into the playoffs. It's Alexander Georgiev for games 1 and 2, no matter what. That is what's happening. And you were talking about how do you get confidence back? What the Avs are trying to do right now is they're trying to manufacture that confidence for him. We're going right back to you. Mm-hmm. We're going to give you the opportunity to get right. Because Jared Bednar understands what you said. You're out of games to feel good about it. And you're not at the point in the season where you can see what you got in Eustace. When we were around the trade deadline and people were talking about they need to bring in a backup, I made the point that I said, if you're going to go out and do that, you have to get someone that you feel can challenge Alexander Georgiev for the starting role. That was going to cost a lot to do in season. That's major surgery to your roster. That's also a massive shot to the confidence of Alexander Georgiev. So this season, the Avs have said, we are putting our faith in you. We're giving you every reason that you should feel confident. We are confident in you. Go out there and win us games. And it's concerning that we've got to the end of the season. There's 1 game to go. and it seems like you have a confidence issue in net.
Mm-hmm.
That really sucks. Because it now seems like, in my opinion, nobody has said this. None of the players have even alluded to this, with their words. I think the group has lost confidence in the fact that he's going to make a save.
And that's really the issue, right? You were kind of saying it to me yesterday in the press box. Jared Benner then repeated it in his post game. It's not that he's like, okay, wow, you're just not playing well. You're losing your grasp on how to play goaltending. And you can always point to defensive structure. 100%. Not always. Most times you can point to some sort of collapse in the defense. But what he's not doing is bailing the team out in those situations. He's making the saves he needs to make. He's not making the big ones that the Avalanche need him to make to keep them afloat in certain games and situations.
And I think what Jared was even alluding to last night, and when you and I were talking about it too, is like, I don't need him to come up with every save on every mistake. That's unrealistic. That's not fair to expect of your goaltender. What was it, the second goal? Brandon Duhaime clearly makes a panic move and fails to get that puck out on the power play, and William Karlsson gets a clean look from 7 feet out. Cale Makar loses his guy on the first goal, and he's a full step behind. Josh Manson takes a high sticking penalty that he knew immediately, like, holy shit, I can't believe I just did that. With 11 seconds to go. If you take each goal and put it in a vacuum, there are clear-cut, valid excuses that you can make for Alexander Georgiev on each one, saying it's not his fault.
Mm-hmm.
But you have a goalie back there because you're going to make mistakes. What you and I were talking about after the game, after we had talked about it, and then Jared repeated it, was I said, the part that's a problem with that is that the Avs were perfect for 40 minutes. In my opinion, last night, they made 4 mistakes. In a 60-minute game, you will take that if that's all you know. 4 mistakes across 60 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
For me, it's a problem that all 4 of those mistakes ended up in the back of the net.
Yeah, and it's kind of been a trend we've seen all year, right? It's like, especially with the defense trying to get the puck out, you see them turn it over, and it's a costly error right away. It's those turnovers are suddenly, they're not mitigating the problem. They're just turning it over, and that's that. The puck ends up in the back of the net. So that's definitely a huge issue that I'm not sure they have much time to figure out. I mean, it's going to be really tough to just snap it around when you're playing a good team like Edmonton, and then you got to jump right into playoff hockey. So, those are 2 big issues, and I guess we'll see how they navigate it this week.
Cale told me, and this was, what game was it? It was somewhat recently. It was a game that they were trying to climb back into. Like, they'd gotten off to a bad start, and they really tried. And I'm sorry, this is terrible podcasting. I don't remember which one it was. But he made a comment. He said, gosh, it seemed like every time we started to build something, we were turning around, we were fishing the puck out of our own net. And that's the part where like I said, nobody has said this. No players have alluded to this with their words, but I just have to imagine that there's a certain level that among the guys, and it's like, come on, man. Like, come on. Like, it's not always going to be perfect. We're trying to scratch and claw. Like, give us something here.
Mm-hmm.
Give us something to help rally around. And that was what I thought those 2 saves near the end of the second were going to be. Like, he's dialed in. I told you yesterday, win, lose, 8 goals for, 1 goal for. Georgiev needed to be exceptional yesterday. And to see him fall apart like that was that was disappointing, man.
Yep. I agree. One last thing for me on the goalie situation. I think one big testament to how he's playing right now in his current form. I mean, we know goaltenders need to be your best penalty killer, right?
Yep.
I feel like I've been going into that locker room a lot lately asking about what's going wrong with the penalty kill. Not saying that it is Alexander Georgiev, but that's exactly it. He's not your best penalty killer right now because he's not in his best form.
Right.
Right? And so it's really kind of hurting them in more ways than one.
And the last thing I'll say on it is I believe Alexander Georgiev has the ability.
I'm 100% confident in his ability.
That he can do it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's an extremely realistic scenario where he shows up for game 1. I mean, how often do we see this every year? It's every year. We see this a goalie shows up and suddenly he's hot in the playoffs and he's just rolling. Alexander Georgiev can do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that it's now been so long since we've seen him dial it up to that level for a consistent stretch that you're like, is the consistency still in there? Because when he's at his peak, he's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't seen him there in a while.
And kind of like I started the show with, if there's anybody that genuinely cares, it's Alexander Georgiev, right?
Yeah.
He holds himself to such a high standard, and he really takes it to heart. So, whatever he thinks is the problem right now, he's currently addressing, and he's addressing it with his best and fullest effort.
I've heard that he's got a little bit of that, like, Nathan McKinnon crazy in him, and I'd love to see him tap into that.
Mm-hmm.
Good crazy. I don't mean to call Nathan McKinnon crazy. He's got the
good crazy.
Yeah,
I think we all knew that.
The good screw loose. Yeah.
Thank you for clarifying. One thing I was starting to notice yesterday, and you can tell me if you're seeing this too, if you agree with it or disagree with it, it's fine. But I'm not sure I'm loving the shot selection from the Avalanche right now. And I think it's partially just and I think we've heard this from Jared Bednar too. Just get the pucks to the net.
Yeah.
You got to have the traffic. You got to get the rebounds, but you got to get pucks to the net. You look at that Ross Colton goal from yesterday. Really weird angle.
Mm-hmm.
Probably doesn't typically go in, more times than not.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in preparation for a guy like Connor Hellebuck, looking ahead to Winnipeg, I think they kind of want to have these let's just throw pucks from anywhere mentality, but I'd like a little bit more selectiveness out of it. I'd like them to really make sure they're taking dangerous shots and not just ones that end up in the belly.
Well, and I'm not I don't know if there's any like specific example I can think of from the last couple of games where they have or have not done this, but like I do go back to that Edmonton game where Edmonton got some very fortunate bounces around the net. I think I tweeted out they scored 5 goals. 4 of them crossed the goal line at under 5 miles an hour. But I had a couple people point out to me, and I can't even say that they're wrong. Like, yeah, they got bodies going to the net though. Like that's what happens when you get to the good areas of the ice. Mm-hmm. And like I said, I think there was more than that going on in that Edmonton game. But they are right, like in that sentiment. And to me, I think that's maybe what you're starting to see out of the Avs is, hey, Winnipeg's not going to let us, at least not in every game, fly around the way we want to. We got to get pucks in net. We got to get to dirty areas. We got to pick up loose pucks and, kind of bang some bodies in front. But to me, I'm with you. If you're doing that, that's fine. The second part of that has to be there, though. You have to be getting guys to the net. You have to be winning battles in front. You have to be finding loose pucks in the blue paint. And you can't be putting stuff. Connor Hellebuck's a very good goaltender who's also big. He's going to swallow up a lot. If you're not putting pucks, if you're not putting shots on net that are dangerous, if you're putting them on net for rebounds, you got to put them somewhere that gives your teammates a chance to get to them.
Yeah.
That there are going to be rebounds, that they can tip or, whatever, redirect, screen. I like the sentiment of put pucks on from everywhere, but there's more that comes with that other than just throw pucks on.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the weight is going to be on guys like Valenchushkin, Arturi Lehkonen, and Miles Wood, the entire fourth line.
Ross Colton
loves to get in front of the net, too. And this is where you really miss a guy like Gabe Landeskog. But those guys are going to be extremely important come playoff time for all the reasons you just brought up.
Yeah, and like you said, that entire – really, the whole bottom 6, like Zach Parise is another scrappy guy that I told you yesterday. I don't necessarily think Zach Parise is going to have like this massive stat line. He strikes me as the exact type of guy. The Avs are down by 1 with 90 seconds left, and he finds a loose puck in front of the net because he's just, he's so strong, so hard to move, powerful player, scrappy guy. Like that's the exact type of shit that I see a guy like Zach Parise. Like you have to just be getting to the front of the net. You will find loose pucks. And I think he's going to put a couple home for the Avs.
That's his forte, yeah.
In the playoffs.
Yeah, and I can't forget about Logan O'Connor, too. That's what he does, and
totally
another guy that they'll miss in the process.
Yeah. No, yeah, you're totally right. It's you've got – everyone knows about their high-end skill. What has always made the Avs so dangerous these last few years is that, it's the depth that kind of goes to the lineup with no Gabe still, no O'Connor. Like, yeah, you definitely miss that element of your team a bit.
Last thing I wanted to get to is acknowledging the Sam Girard injury.
Yeah.
And then looking a little bit at Caleb Jones. I think he got a little bit of a leash yesterday. I would have liked to see him get more minutes. I don't love the fact that Jared Bednar is kind of protecting him.
Yeah.
It looked like the 5 out of the 6 defensemen just got regular minutes, and Caleb Jones was really sheltered there. So not saying that he needs to jump in and get Cale Makar-esque minutes, but I think I like what I see out of Caleb Jones. We saw him really kind of activate offensively. And I think he's worked so hard this season on his shot selection and where he's placing the puck when he gets it at the blue line. So, yeah, I guess your thoughts on the Sam Girard injury and Caleb Jones' usage after that.
Yeah, you hope Sam's all right. Not just, obviously for him. Obviously, head injuries are always scary. He's in concussion protocol, all of that. It's a big piece for the Avs. Like the way he has played since coming back from the player assistance program has been a revelation for the Avs. He's been outstanding this year. So we'll wait to see what happens with that. He got up, skated off under his own power relatively quickly. Kind of ran down the tunnel. I thought it was one of those like, ooh man, that shook me up a bit. That rattled my teeth a little bit. Went into concussion protocol, did not return. So that tells you that something happened in the dark room that they were like, ooh, we don't like that result. Caleb Jones, here's Caleb Jones' issue by Caleb Jones' own admission. He's wildly inconsistent. I'm with you. I thought he played well last night. Mm-hmm. And I think we've seen him play well in several games this year. But then he's also had games, periods, shifts where it's like, what are you doing, man? What are you doing? Where are you supposed to go? You are not good enough to make that kind of pinch, that kind of read. You cannot get back and cover up for that. So I think he's the defensive version of what we hear Jared Bednar talk about all the time. What does Jared Bednar like the most? Predictability. Mm-hmm. He likes to know what guys are going to do, and I just think he's still a little scared that he doesn't quite know what Caleb Jones is going to do.
Fair enough.
And so I'm with you. I think if Caleb Jones not even can, like you said, become Cale Makar, but if he can just like settle into his game a little bit, I think that would earn him a lot more minutes, but he's still just a little bit too much of a
wild card.
Yeah, thank you. I was going to say a wild ride, but that seemed a little mean. But yeah, just don't quite know what you're going to get every shift.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, that's all I really want to talk about from that Vegas Golden Knights matchup.
Yeah. Heading into the playoffs, we will be doing post-game shows immediately after each playoff game. They'll be a little bit shorter like this. I think we're at about 20 or 25, 30 minutes. So there'll be a little bit shorter episodes, kind of like this one, just kind of unpacking what is most relevant. But especially this time of year, we were just talking. We're here in Vegas. We didn't want to go too long without updating everyone on what's going on because there's a lot happening right now. So keep an eye out for more of this. Let us know. Also, we have all kinds of cool, fun content coming for the playoffs, but let us know what you guys like to see, want to hear more of, less of, more JJ, less me. I'm imagining it's going to be a lot of the feedback, so just let us know. But am I missing anything?
No, you did great. I think you can even send us off.
Oh, perfect. All right, well, yeah, then, make sure you guys keep following along. As we were talking about last time, guys, we have so much stuff happening, so I've never been able to ask people, like, hey, like, subscribe, and set up reminders. So, like, this is fun to be able to like, subscribe, and set up reminders, you people. You guys are all amazing. Actually, I do want to say this one last thing. Yesterday was 41 road games covered for Guerilla Sports this season. It's 41 out of 41 for anyone doing the math at home. It's been an unbelievable year, and we kind of got to go out and celebrate a little bit last night and just kind of reflect on the season. And genuinely, I'm saying all this because we wouldn't have been able to do any of this without the unbelievable support we've gotten from everyone all year, and the people who are already clicking on and watching the stuff that we're creating and are subscribing to the different channels that we've got. We've got 2 different podcast channels right now. This is Fun and Guerilla Hockey, which is the show that you're watching right now. Make sure you subscribe to both. They all live on our YouTube channel. So please make sure you are subscribing there if you're watching there. But yeah, thank you guys so much. This has been a crazy year. This was not what we originally drew up at the beginning of the year. So be able to pull this off has been amazing. And we're only getting bigger and better and more people. And we had a fun little teaser last week for a new creator that we're bringing on. So it's all a ton of fun. Thank you guys all so much. And we'll be back this week, back in Denver, playoff time, and we'll be getting into all that. So for JJ, I'm Jesse. This is Guerilla Hockey. Thanks so much, guys.